All right, hey guys, so we are going to continue on talking about writing an equation of a line when you're given the slope and a point. Now, in order to be able to do this, we're going to have to bring back the information from the vocabulary, which is the point-slope form, because how we find the equation of a line, right, is by plugging the information they give us, the slope and the point, into point-slope form. So a reminder, point-slope form is y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. And so that is point-slope form. Now remember that the y here, y1, here is your y coordinate of your point that you're given. The m here is the slope, and the x1 here is the x coordinate of the point that you're given. Now the regular y and the regular x, they stay as they are. And let me move that over a little bit so we can see. There we go. All right. They stay as they are. So in order to write the equation of a line when we're just given the slope and a random point, all right, if we can't graph it, we use this point-slope form. We plug the information in, and then we solve it down for the y to get the y by itself. So let's take a look at some examples then. So example A says the slope is -3, all right, and it goes through the point -2, -4. So the first thing I always start with is I label the point with the x1 and y1. So -2 is the x coordinate, so I'm going to call that x1. And then -4 is the y coordinate, so I'm going to call that y1. Then I'm going to plug that information into the appropriate spots. Right? So when I look at that, my -2 is going to go in to my x1 here. Right? Then my -4 is going to go in for my y1. Then I'm going to take my slope and I'm going to plug that information in for the m. So that -3 is going to go in place of the m. So again, I'm going to write my point-slope form up here and we'll simplify it from there. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And again, reminder where each thing goes, right? So I'm going to go ahead and plug that information in now. So the y itself is going to stay the same. So I'm going to have y and then minus, because that starts as a subtraction as we talked about before. Then my y1, which is -4. And because it's a negative, I'm going to plug it in parentheses, which is equal to m. My m, again, is my slope, so -3 goes in that spot, times my x doesn't change, so x, and then minus my x1, which was, again, -2. So I'm going to plug that in parentheses, and there is the end of my parentheses. Now, once I'm here, the first thing I want to do is simplify any double negatives I see, if I have any, which I do. I have negatives here. So this becomes a positive, double negative becomes a positive. I've got a double negative here, so that becomes a positive as well. So I'm going to rewrite this in its simplest form, which is y plus 4 equals -3 times x plus 2. Then my goal is to simplify down. So we have to follow our normal steps of PEMDAS and all of that. And the first step we would do is our multiplication, right? Because we have a distribution going on here, which is a form of multiplication. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply -3 times x, and then -3 times +2. Well, -3 times x is just -3x, and -3 times +2, that is -6. And then that's all equal to y plus 4, because I haven't used that yet. Well, my last step to solve this down is I need to get the y by itself. So the next thing I need to do is remove the +4. Well, the only way to do that is to subtract 4 from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Well, 4 minus 4, that cancels. And I'm left with y equals -3x, and then -6 minus 4 is negative 10. So my simplified final equation of the line that has the slope of negative 3 and goes through the point negative 2, negative 4 is y equals negative 3x minus 10. Now the great thing about this is when you plug the information into here, your steps to simplify will always be the same. First thing you do, distribute, get it to there. Second thing you do, all right, is move whatever's here to the other side. Now whether it's plus or minus, that's what you got to figure out, but those steps will always be the same. Distribute first, add or subtract that across second. All right, so let's do another example again. We've got example B says the slope is negative 1/3 and it goes through the point 5, 2. So again, slope negative 1/3. Right. Point is 5, 2. So I'm going to plug those into the appropriate spots. So into my point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. The y doesn't change, so I've got y minus, my y1 in this case is 2, because this is x1 and y1, as we talked about labeling them. So y minus 2 is equal to m, which was, in this case, negative 1/3, times x, which doesn't change, minus my x1, which is 5. So there we go. So now I've got it plugged into point slope form. So then I want to look for double negatives. Do I have any of those? No double negative here, no double negative there. All right, and those are the two spots that we would check. So that means that I'm already ready to start my simplification. So the first thing I want to do is distribute the negative 1/3 to each term inside of the parentheses. Do the multiplication. So negative 1/3 times x is negative 1/3 x. So I've got negative 1/3 x. And then negative 1/3 times negative 5. Well, that doesn't go easy. So let's do that out to the side. So negative 1/3 times negative 5. Well, in order to multiply them, I need this to be a fraction, so let's put it over 1. I'm going to look diagonally. Nothing to simplify here, nothing to simplify here, so I need to multiply straight across. Well, negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5, and then 3 times 1 is 3. So that becomes a positive 5/3. So positive 5 over 3. Which isn't super pretty, but that's what it is. And then that's all equal to y minus 2. Well, then my next step is I need to move this negative 2 across, so I'm going to do that by adding 2 and adding 2. Well, I know negative 2 and positive 2 cancel, so on the left side I'm left with y equals. The right side, negative 1/3 x, stays the same, but then I've got to add this positive 5/3 and positive 2. So again, 5/3 plus 2. Well, in order to add that, I need to put this over 1 and then create a common denominator. Well, 3 and 1, the smallest denominator they could both be is 3. So I need to multiply this by 3, which means I need to also multiply the top by 3. So when I do that, this one stays the same. So that's 5/3 plus 2 times 3 is 6. And 1 times 3 is 3. And then I can add them. 5 plus 6 is 11, and with a denominator of 3. So that ends up as positive 11/3. Which isn't super pretty, but that is the answer to this problem. So final answer, y equals negative 1/3 x plus 11/3. All right, well, I'd encourage you to try example C on your own, then check your answer with mine. All right, well, example C says it has a slope of 3/5. So we've got this slope of 3/5, and it goes through the point negative 3, 1. Well, again, remember this is an x1 and y1. I need to label those. And then I need to plug them in to the appropriate spots. So we're going into our point slope form. So first thing is y minus, my y1 is 1, equal to m which is 3/5, times x minus, my x1 is -3, so in parentheses as well. So first step, get rid of any double negatives. Well, I see I have a double negative here, so I'm going to make that a positive, and then I like to rewrite it to make sure I don't mess up. So y minus 1 equals 3/5 times x plus 3. So then we need to actually do the distribution. So 3/5 times x is 3/5 x. 3/5 times positive 3. Well, if I did that out here to the side, 3/5 times 3. All right. Well, I got to put that over 1 and then multiply it across. 3 times 3 is 9, and 5 times 1 is 5. So 9/5, and they're both positive, so positive 9/5. And then that's all equal to y minus 1. So then my next step, get the -1 off the same side as the y. So first thing I'm going to do, add 1 to this side, and then add 1 to that side. So when I add 1 to this side, -1 plus 1 is 0, so I'm left with y. Then my equal sign, 3/5 x, that doesn't change. And then I need to add 9/5 with positive 1. Well, again, we're here at 9/5 plus 1. In order to add them, I have to have both as fractions, so put the 1 over 1. Then I got to have a common denominator. So first thing, multiply the denominator by 5 and this one by 5, because that's the smallest common denominator. And we should come up with 9/5 plus 5 over 5. Then we can add the numerators. 9 plus 5 is 14. Denominator stays the same, so stays as a 5. So positive 14/5. So my final equation of the line that goes through the point -3, 1 and has a slope of 3/5 is y equals 3/5 x plus 14/5. So again, that's super pretty. We're ending up with fractions here, but that happens sometimes, right? Always check to see if they can be reduced down, which neither of those two examples could, but if they can, make sure that you do that. All right, well again, I'd encourage you to pause the video, try example D on your own, then check your answer with mine. So example D says the slope is -1/5 and it goes through the point 3, 4. So first thing I'm going to do is label my point 3, 4. This is x1, the 4 is y1. Then I'm going to plug it in. So I get y minus, my y1 is 4, equal to, my slope m is -1/5, times x minus, my x1 is 3. So then at this point I want to check, do I have any double negatives? Not here or not here. So that means I can then go into that multiplication distributing the -1/5. So -1/5 times x is -1/5 x. And -1/5 times -3. Well, again, I don't do that well in my head, so I'm going to write it out here to the side. So -1/5 times -3. In order to multiply these numbers, I need them both as fractions, so put it over -3 over 1, then multiply across. -1 times -3 is positive 3. 5 times 1 is 5. So I ended up with positive 3/5. Well, that's all equal to y minus 4 because we didn't do anything on that side. So last step, add 4 to each side to get rid of that -4. When I add 4 to this side, -4 and positive 4 cancel, and I'm left with y equals -1/5 x. And then I got to add these. This takes me a little work, so positive 3/5 plus 4. Well, again, in order to add a fraction with the whole number, got to make the whole number over 1. Then I got to find my common denominator. 1 and 5, the smallest number would be 5. So multiply the bottom by 5 and the top by 5. So this becomes 3/5 plus 4 times 5 is 20, and 1 times 5 is 5. Then we can add the numerators. 3 plus 20 is 23, and then denominator stays the same, so 23/5. And they are positive, so positive 23/5. So my final equation of this line is y equals negative 1/5 x plus 23/5. All right, well, that is how we use point slope form. If you have additional questions, please reach out. Otherwise, you should have what you need to continue the final section of the notes.